Hello everyone, this is Statler.
And Waldorf.
Here to talk about characters, section 15 of our review of the 9th Age rulebook.
Just want to point out these numbers we're using are kind of just headings. They're not actually listed anywhere in the rulebook.
Yes, you will not find these numbers in the rulebook. It's just because we're old and we need some kind of sequence to keep track of
guidance.
Things. Yes.
If we don't keep track of things with numbers, we're in trouble.
Who knows? We'll get them all out of order, especially when we have to put them on the site and figure out which order they're going to be in. Hopefully, it'll also help you when you're looking at them on YouTube to know, what comes in what order.
Which one came in which order?
Relative to the rule book.
It's good that we explain this now that we're into 15.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's because we just thought of it.
Exactly. All right. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay. So characters. There's a lot of subtle changes in this part of the rule. I mean, generically, they're they work pretty much the same, but the little changes actually do make a big difference. It talks about what a character is, basically heroes and lords, and he talks about lone characters, just a very clear statement that they're single models and they follow all the basically they're a unit of one model. Correct. Like a monster would be, and they follow all the normal rules for units.
Right.
Joining units, it's mostly the same except for your positioning. You can run in, you touch the unit, and then you form up. You have to form up to the closest point. It's no longer, you can go on one end, you got this horde, and you can run and barely touch it on one side
and pop all the way
slingshot to the other end.
Well, now you still can, if you run into the very back of a bus unit, you still pop forward.
Right.
All the way forward, even beyond your movement.
Yes.
But you've got to go to the closest space within your...
Right, so you'd be on that side of the unit. You wouldn't be all the way on the other side.
Correct.
Well,
yeah.
5 models isn't that far, but yeah.
But it can be.
But it can be, and it can make a difference, especially if you're trying to, just protect yourself by something charging you.
Or you're trying to do something really weird where you get you hit a unit that's 10 models wide, and then hit the one corner of it, pop to the other corner of it, just so you can get a better shot with your mage or whatever.
Well, it's really big, and we'll talk about this later, but it's mismatching bases.
Right.
So if you got this big guy, you can't just run him into the unit and bounce him on the other side, so they could only fight him because he was on a deep base or something.
Good point.
Yeah.
Right. Other than that, combined unit is wiped out. This is same as always.
Yeah.
Leaving one or more. This was kind of interesting. Combined unit is wiped out, leaving one or more characters behind. The remaining characters keep forming a unit, which is considered to be the same unit for ongoing effects and panic for moving on. So, if you took heavy casualties, they don't ignore it just because it's the 2 characters left.
Right.
It's significant. This was worded differently in an earlier version because they left out this part about ongoing effects, which led to a bit of confusion, because since they were saying it's the same unit, that meant the characters kept the same leadership. Was the question that came up earlier, but they kind of clarified that with this. For ongoing effects, kind of eliminated that problem.
Well, it's always the highest leadership anyway, though. So.
Yeah, but considering you were the same units, it just caused anyway. Caused the rules lawyerish type to say you're the same units, you have the same leadership. Anyway. What do we got? Leaving a combined unit. You can leave in the remaining moves phase. It hasn't already moved. You roll a march test for the whole unit before any model. So I guess you roll once for the entire unit and characters leaving it, correct?
Right.
That's what that's saying?
Yes.
Rather than rolling for each individual character that's leaving one if you're splitting out.
Right.
Next we have charging out of a unit.
Right.
The difference here is if you declare a charge out of a unit, the stand and shoot reactions are declared against the character, not the unit.
And that's just a very clear point. So can't use your unit as a blade of fire.
Yes.
Distributing hits. This is a huge change. So there's no more, the name of the rules escaped me from 8th edition.
Lookout, sir.
Lookout, sir. Thank you.
Correct.
No more. I need to take my Alzheimer's medicine. There's no more lookout, sir rule.
That's why there's two of us doing this, by the way.
Exactly.
In case most of these are done by one person, it takes both of us to be able to.
Well, two brains can make a brain.
Exactly.
So,
anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's all right. It's just what you do. It's a Waldorf-ism, I like to say.
Oh, well.
I think you're giving me the finger on the front slides. So yeah, but basically, so there's no more lookout, sir. There is, and it's also very clear on when you distribute hits, when they just hit rank and file, and when you distribute them between rank and file and characters, or things of different characters of different troop type. I got to be clear on that point.
Right.
And it's different troop type. People sometimes think it means a different size base. It's not different size base.
Troop type.
It's different troop type.
Correct.
So if your infantry's on 25 and the unit's on a 20, it's the same, and they're both infantry. They're both infantry.
Right.
And that's something that people have to pay close attention to in their army lists. So when they're building stuff, especially when you start getting into the monstrous things and ridden.
Yeah, I mean, it even makes a difference with my orcs and goblins, because you got the 25 mm. You got the orcs and the goblins are on different size base.
Correct.
So cross joining guys is possible.
Right.
Anyway.
So, but basically, if it's the same troop type and there are at least 5 rank and file models in the unit, then you basically only attack the unit and the characters can't take any hits.
Yep.
Templates. If it hits the unit and it's targeting the character, the hit is transferred to the rank and file model. So it's very clear. If you got a big gunk of guys and there's characters in there, unless you got some kind of special rule,
you can't hit the character.
You cannot, or a focused attack. But basically, ballistic skill shooting is not going to hit the characters.
Correct.
Then it flips over to if you have 4 or less rank and file models in the unit. And this is very important because this is a fixed value. It's 4 or less rank and file units. So this doesn't matter if you're monstrous infantry or regular infantry or anything else. And so I think I've seen sometimes on boards or even people play, they go, oh, I've got 3 monstrous, so it's the same. It's like, no.
Which is another holdover.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So, but if you have those, then the player making the attack,
that's the big change.
Very big change, distributes the hits across the models. And they have to be distributed. So as equally as possible. You can't just put them all in what you want to hit to.
But that means, again, you hit a unit with one shot. If it's if it's got 4 and a character, you can always put that 1 on the character.
Exactly.
For every unit that fires at it, you can just start tacking up those.
Where these rules are particularly important are war machines.
Correct.
Because in the old days, cannons could zip kill anything. In your hopes you made your lookout, sir. Well, that was your protection. If you had different size models, you were screwed. Now, the cannons, they attack rank and file if they're shooting a unit, unless they're at 4 models less. So you're actually very vulnerable if you're in a small unit, against something with a cannon or a bolt thrower, if you can get that hit on you. Because the guy can say, I want that guy.
Surprisingly enough, I want that guy.
Yes, you're mine.
Yeah.
I want to put a kill ring on my cannon.
Yeah. Well, the big one that I always thought argued with this was, it used to be that the player getting hit distributed the hits.
Right.
Which also, again, why does the guy getting hit get to decide who was hit? Anyway, but that's a change that I think most people like.
Yeah, and I think it changed dynamics too. So you're not going to play with these really tiny units. Put characters with them. Thinking in the old days they would actually protect them to a large degree.
Yes.
Now, not so much. At least not against war machines.
That brings us to the front rank rule.
Yes.
All characters in command group models have the front rank.
Still calling this first in rank, even
first in rank, or whatever you want to call it. Just means that if you have this rule, which all characters do, you have to be put in the front rank.
It also applies to command models, like
it does.
Champions, musicians, and Standardbearer.
It's not really a change here. Just clarifies that you have to be in the front rank. Because, again, the command models can push out the characters can push out the command, however you want to deal with it.
Well, instead of dealing with it like they did in the earlier editions, where they would just talk about it in the different units.
Right. Here,
it's a rule that applies equally to everyone.
To everything, correct.
So, and there's a lot of that in Ninth Age, where instead of explaining it in each section, they've created a defined rule.
A generic rule that covers everything.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. What is this? Matching bases?
Right.
Basically, if you don't have the same base, you have to...
That'd be mismatching bases.
If you have mismatching bases, you get pushed off to the side.
Right. Basically, yeah, the matching bases are if you're the same size, you can set up wherever you want as long as you follow the first in rank rule. And then mismatching, you have to go to one side or the other of the unit. And as we mentioned, if you're joining the unit, your movement's important about where you can join.
Yes. Again, this is a rule that's kind of always been there. I mean, 8th edition, it's just clarified, put all together where everything works.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's also the, on the matching, you also have you can actually be different size, but you can still rank up. So, say you're on a 40 millimeter base and you're in an infantry units of 20, you can, since they're 220s equals a 40, you can actually be anywhere in the unit. You have to sit on the side. It's only really odd things that they're not multipliers of the base.
It's the mismatch base more than anything in this one.
Then they show some diagrams of different mismatch bases in the unit. So like the first one shows I guess those are probably 25s. They're probably 20s. And then they're showing you how they move characters front, the musicians back. You've got this guy on the 40 who sits inside the unit because he's 220 equals a 40. Then you have this guy on the flank who's
looks like a 25.
25, and he has to sit on the outside because he can't sit in. Then you have an example down below of you've got 240s and how they've moved guys around within the unit to decide who wants to fight.
And of course that C4 in the bottom one could be pushed up to the front rank and displace 2 other guys back.
As could, well, I guess MS in theory, I guess, I don't know, MU could not in this case because it wouldn't leave a big enough gap. So you have to put one of your 40s because he has to be first in rank.
If what?
So in the second example, they have the musician in the second rank.
Mm-hmm.
He can't be in the first rank.
Yeah, he could bump that C3 guy, couldn't he?
He can't bank. Oh, he could bank C3. I'm sorry, he couldn't bump the C2 guy. That's what I was trying to say.
Correct, because that wouldn't fill the front rank.
That wouldn't fill the front rank. It would force a rank and file there. So you still have to maintain that first in rank. So when you get some of these different base sizes, you just have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, nice diagrams.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that we saw earlier when we talked about the units, I think, this 25 millimeter character out here on the left, C2 in the bottom, C1 in both examples, changes the frontage of the unit.
Correct, yes, and the visibility arc.
Correct. This one's a huge change to me. Make way.
That's very huge.
And it tells you when it happens. You'll see the consolidated round to combat sequence where it spells this out again. But make way has been changed significantly. At step 3 of the round of combat sequence, any character placed in the front rank, he has to already be in the front rank.
He can't come from the rear.
And he's not in contact with an enemy. He can move into contact with an enemy model that is in base contact with the frontage of the character's unit.
Right.
That means even something on your side that's contacting the front rank, you can't go to the front, over the side and fight it.
It's not touching the frontage.
Right. So it lets him switch positions in the front rank to get in the fight. Again, does not let him move to the side or the rear and just destroy something charging in. And again, characters with mismatching base sizes can never perform the make way. The big thing, this is a huge change.
This is huge.
It used to be you charge humongous. You charge a unit of fast cav or something into a rear of a unit, just trying to tie it up for a turn or so.
Yep, you send your characters back there and slice it all up.
The character walks back, destroys it all, moves back to the front, and everything's done. Like it was kind of
that ridiculous. Was a big one. It was also big. You could play the game of not putting all your combat characters in the front rank, using your musician as standard and holding them back so you knew where to align them up in your combat.
Exactly.
By making forward. So they're done
by stepping
with that.
forward. That in particular, that Bretonnians and ogres were the primary, I guess.
Well, I mean, any
users of that.
Anyone who wanted to have lots of characters and want to protect certain guys, and just you just get the matchups you want to get.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think this is one of the different rules. The breaking steadfast being the other. That's also an anti Death Star rule.
Correct.
I mean, Death Stars are still in the game, unfortunately, in a lot of armies.
They are.
But at least you don't have to worry about these guys hiding these guys back there and reacting, as you said, to it being invulnerable from all sides. Because no matter where you attack them, if you only send one unit in, all of a sudden you got 4 really powerful characters pounding on you. You're dead with your rank and file guys before they can do anything.
Yeah. No, that's good. And then we go to the character types.
Right.
The general. Choosing your general. I mean, the character with the highest leadership, same as it's always been.
Yeah.
Excluding the BSB, of course, because he's not, and the characters with not a leader.
Right. The only thing they just clarify that it has to be listed on your army list.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came as a problem, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
just a clarification.
It's a clarification. And then the difference, the one thing is difference is that inspiring presence may be used.
Correct.
So it's no longer just automatically there.
So it's an option, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, maybe if you want to run
want
away,
a unit to break.
You know, because you're trying to pull them into a trap or something.
Right.
Then we have the Battle of Standardbearer. Battle of Standardbearer's pretty much the same as it was, except for the Hold Your Ground, which now is also a May. So you don't have to do the reroll if you don't want to. The other thing about the Battle Standardbearer is that it the combination, it's no longer if you take a magic standard, you don't get to take any magic equipment.
Correct.
You get to combine, as long as it doesn't exceed 50 points, you can combine a magic standard with magic armor or sword or whatever you want to do. And
this was a great change to me.
This is a fantastic change.
Yeah, because you can keep you can kit out your BSB, give him a 5-point banner to help your unit.
Right.
5, 10-point banner, help your entire unit, and still protect it.
Oh, exactly. I mean,
because it used to be you would never see a BSB with magic, unless of course he was going to be in a unit that was never going to be in combat, or like an ogre unit where he never had to come forward.
Well, yeah, you could shield them, you know, which you can't really do anymore, or you would use, as you said, he was already a pretty tough thing, or you know, you'd create a little standard bunker and it'd be running around behind your
your primary unit.
You know, primary unit to do nothing but to use I think Mr. Malorian used to do that on some of his armies.
The goblin.
Yes.
The goblin BSB.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's nice because there's a number of low standard cost banners you would have never taken on a BSB before. Now you can think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
even standard discipline, which is somewhat
25, 30 now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you could actually take it if you needed to.
Right.
You know, on your magic standard and still give them some kind of armor or ward save, you know. So.
Right. No, the big one, I love that, and we'll get to that when we talk about the standards.
Yeah.
But there's a 5-point standard that makes you immune to fear and terror.
Right.
You can usually find 5 points on a BSB for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Which you would never do it before because.
Well, what makes it particularly important, and we'll see this when we get to the army books, is there are a lot fewer magic standards available to armies. Because you no longer have mass core magic standards. Usually you only have one option for a magic standard.
Right.
So, you know, filling out your core and your characters, you always don't have that many additional units to put magic standards in. So there is an incentive for you to put a magic standard on your BSB now.
Correct. And the next one is the flag is down rule. Right. This is, again, if your standard bearer is removed as a casualty, the battle standard is considered captured. There's the flag is down is when a battle standard bearer breaks from combat, he loses his standard, but he's still a model. He's still a hero.
Right.
He's still a hero.
He just loses his standard.
The only thing he's lost is his standard.
Give him those victory points.
And his hold your ground rule, of course, goes because he no longer has the standard.
Right.
But at least he doesn't give you the victory points because 8th edition, if you broke, your standard bearer automatically died, and like we talked about a little bit earlier, that Gorbad model that died, or
Slan Mage Priest.
It was
just a terrible thing.
It was a terrible rule.
You know, and the 8th had, and I'm glad they fixed it.
Yeah, I'm really big on this one.
Brings us to challenges. Challenges, once again, generically the same. You issue a challenge, the other guy accepts or refuses a challenge. Now, the accept is the difference being that when you refuse a challenge, you no longer move to the back of the unit and you're, invulnerable.
Right.
When you refuse a challenge, you stay where you are and you just have, everything's, your leadership is 0, and basically you can't use your stubborn, and you're basically a punching bag.
You still have your weapon skill. They still have to hit you.
They still have to hit you.
And you still got your armor and everything else, but you lose your attacks.
Right. So you're sitting there just getting pounded on, so it's not that often that you're going to probably be refusing a challenge.
No.
It's not as easy a decision as it was.
You're still going to do it if there's that character that's not touching you but issuing the challenge.
Yes.
You don't want to step over there and die.
Right.
At least this way it lets the rank and file beat up on you.
If you have the alignment, but it basically, I think it makes you want to think about that. Also, I think it makes you think about if you think that's going to be your strategy about how you put your magic items on your character to keep them alive. If you're not going to have them fighting, you better protect them.
Right. Yeah. Back to that make way thing, where we talked about earlier. I'm sorry, I'm circling back to it, but you just mentioned magic items on characters. This also, that ability not to make way to the front rank, stops that thing where you've got that character that has. There's not a lot of them, but there's characters that have those magic items that nullify other magic items,
or cause multiple wounds, or whatever.
Which lets you step forward into as many contact with as many of the enemy characters as you could. Anyway, sorry, just went back to that.
Right, and this does not affect champion. So if a champion refuses, which is nice, similar before, he's still a champion.
He doesn't drop to 0 attacks and whatever. Right. Fighting a challenge. No one moves, which was in the old rules that quirky thing where you try to line it up where there was a huge advantage sometimes to getting the other character to move or moving your character.
So who you challenged, who you accepted with, quite often was all about positioning
in the unit.
Which was
now no one moves, you just count as being in base contact, even if you're not physically touching.
Right.
Which again gives you some advantage to. There's a lot of things that count as to what you're in base contact with.
Right.
But at least this way, it matters. The other thing is all your attacks have to be allocated towards each other, which has always been the case. But it clarifies this one big one here is impact hits. Impact hits now go at initiative 10.
Yep.
They're no longer a thing that happens before attacks. The attack before the combat starts.
Yep.
So Chariot charges in. This both helps and hurts. Chariot charges in with a character on it, issues a challenge. If a character wants to step up and deal with that guy, he's got to eat those impact hits.
Yep.
On the other side, the part of this rule I'm not thrilled with is, again, the Chariot charges in with a character on it. His champion issues a challenge.
Yep.
Now
and absorbs everything with
absorbed your character and the impact hits, everything else, so you're going to get a charge and 3 overkill. Charge, a wound, and 3 overkill for it.
But I think that's also the counter to mounted monsters and chariots and things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is the chariots hitting the unit and the character the champion stepping up and dealing with it.
Right.
To me is anyway, not ideal, but whatever, because it doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
It's better than Lookout Sir roll. And
it's better than Lookout Sir roll. I agree. The other thing that changed, character with more than one initiative value, such as a rider and a monster and a stomp attacks. I kill your champion with my 3 attacks. I've did my 1 wound. I'm not limited to that just because I would as higher initiative.
You get all your attacks.
My monster can still jump up and down on you and give me the +3 combat res.
Right.
Therefore, and I view that as it makes sense because they don't really know when you died, right? And it's going to be rather demoralizing if that spider starts doing a dance on your champion's dead body, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it just because, it's this way of things. It lets you at least get to your maximum overkill, or have a chance to get to your maximum overkill.
And the maximum overkill is down from what it was.
Right. So at least, you're not going to necessarily automatically lose the combat.
Correct.
Because your champion stepped forward.
Yeah. You're probably going to get a charge, wound, and 3 overkill, so that's 5. The other guy has, 3 ranks and a banner?
Right.
unless he's got the BSB, then it becomes 5-5, and you're
Right.
going to lose by 1.
Because of the, well, you're going to lose.
Well, you're going to
position.
lose, not lose by 1
not by
anymore,
one
which we'll
anymore.
get to later, I guess, when we get to
Right.
that. But anyway,
But yeah, so I think that works okay.
I think the challenge, the clearing up the challenge rules, was a great addition.
I think so too.
Especially, to me, the biggest thing is the moving thing. Because, again, not only among everything else, the gamey part of it, it also slowed the thing down.
Well, the
when
game
you
part
get into
was,
combat.
yeah. I mean, I've seen combats that have taken 20 minutes to resolve
Yeah.
because people are trying to figure out where their characters are going to go and lining them up and waiting for the other guy to do this and that. And
Yeah, the other guy issues a
and
challenge.
very big models are falling over because the guy doesn't quite fit because he's got a big sword or something, and
Yes.
you know, just weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then after the combat's over, he reforms. He's got to put everything all back again. You know,
Correct.
So
Again,
this is all
cleaner, easier,
very, very
and
much cleaner.
takes away that gaminess.
right.
Which
And the overkill has been balanced out. So
and if you remember, the characters and stuff doesn't matter as much as it used to, because you can still attack. Rank and file can always hit rank and
Right.
file. So again, all the gaminess kind of going away.
right.
Big thing. Well, that's what I have for characters, right?
Yep. That wraps up the character section.
All right. We'll be back on the next section later.